This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Gates of Hell Chipotle Hot Sauce by Frightday. Bold Chipotle flavor blended with habanero peppers for just the right burn. Kissed with garlic and passion fruit. Zero human blood, like none at all. Visit shop.frightday.com before the first batch disappears.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
Cryptids and conspiracies.
Boy, it's been a long time since I've done one of these.
Yeah? How you feeling?
Ahoy?
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 All right.
Tonight we've got an interesting story. It's been a while since I threw a cryptid at you.
We've been waiting.
We do have a longer chupa episode discussing the phenomena of chupacabra, but not yet, because tonight we talk about a creature that I previously did not know about and have really spent some time down the rabbit hole researching. It is called the Aswang. Okay, this is a creature that heralds from the Philippines. And Byron, before you ask me for a simple description, I will tell you that there is no simple description. This is a cultural cryptid.
It sure is.
So I need to give the disclaimer up front that I do not claim to be a cultural anthropologist or expert in Filipino culture. I'm going to do my best. Guarantee you I'm not going to get it all right. And if I say anything offending, please let me know so I don't screw it up.
Girlfriend's Filipino.
Why didn't we interview her for this?
I talked to her at lunch about this.
What did she say about it?
She briefly said her mom used to threaten that the Aswang would get her if she misbehaved.
Okay, that's hilarious because I called one of my good friends today who is also Filipino. She said the exact same thing. Exactly the same thing.
It's a targeted boogeyman.
It is.
Summoned by adults.
It's very interesting. Never been to the Philippines. Beautiful country. I know embarrassingly little about it, but I'm going to give you some facts. Did you know that there are more than 85 distinct languages, not dialects, distinct languages spoken in the Philippines?
At some point.
Did you know that there are more than 7,000 islands?
A lot of them.
Hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really beautiful, really interesting, amazing food. All the people that I know who have made it all the way to Montana from the Philippines have been wonderful humans. I mean, I have nothing but good things to think about the Philippines. I do know that, like many places on the planet, first Westerners, Western European, and then Americans really did their best to F it up royally.
There's a lot of current corruption as well. And
yeah, well,
I don't want to just say that it's amazing and awesome.
Oh, no. That's what I'm saying is the West has done a number on the Philippines since as long as the West knew the Philippines existed.
Yes.
Do you know that is where Magellan met his end? Bad, evil colonialist dude.
He was one of the rough ones.
Yeah. One of the first peoples on one of the islands in what is now the Philippines. Put an end to him.
Broke Magellan's neck?
I mean, somehow murdered him.
Okay.
Dead.
Well,
Gone.
the noise you made it sound like it maybe.
I mean, I don't know how it was, but it was great. When I first started reading about the Aswang, though, it was because I had heard that they were basically vampires. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Turns out, Byron, after watching a couple of different documentaries and reading some stories, some articles, even some scholarly journals, I have come to understand that they are more like a blanket category for a variety of different Filipino folk monsters, and specifically 5 different categories of them are all rolled into the Aswang. Now, some of these categories are going to sound rather familiar and some of them are going to sound real weird, but prepare yourself. First, we have vampires.
Classic.
Okay.
They bite the neck of the victim and drink the blood.
They do.
They can't come out until it's dark.
This is true. We have the were-dog.
Is it just like the general blanket wear? Like a were-canine?
Shapeshifter, but
it could be a
very
werewolf.
Specifically a dog versus a wolf.
Okay. Like a
big
dog
black
man.
dogs.
Dog man.
Yeah. An evil eye witch.
Evil eye witch.
Evil eye witch.
Okay.
A ghoul that eats dead animals or dead humans.
And what is a ghoul? Is it more of a spirit?
So interesting that you ask that. Actually, the Aswang are categorized as creatures of the lower mythology in Filipino folklore because they rank below ghosts, saints, angels, spirits, etc.
Sure.
And I should also point out that there are some wonderfully revealing quotes from very early colonial records of the Spanish trying to conquer the Philippines. And the way that they look down on a lot of their folklore is just absolutely
Very dismissive.
ridiculous, very dismissive.
And these are the mostly Catholic people?
Right. Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
That's
I know.
interesting.
It is
well,
a
I
little
guess
bit.
the Philippines are, now.
Because
very
of
Catholic.
colonialism. Yeah. There you go. The fifth category might be the most interesting one to me. And Byron, this is going to be...
We didn't stick the landing on a ghoul.
Oh, sorry. It's a spooky zombie. We could go like maybe zombie-ish.
I mean, when I say ghoul, everyone has an idea of a ghoul.
I just think of Charlie Kelly.
Yeah, I know you do.
What are some of your likes?
Ghouls.
Son of a bitch. What are you talking about now?
Funny little green ghouls.
What? Like in movies and cartoons? What?
Little green ghouls, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't write
Ghouls.
ghouls.
Milk steak.
Yeah, my
Knees.
sticker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it says right there.
Yep. People's knees.
Uh-huh. Great.
Okay.
So, moving on. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's fair.
I'm always looking for more information.
You can look at pictures.
I'm looking.
Okay.
It says mythical creature right here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, but specifically within the Aswang. Last category, eviscerating cannibal self-segmenting creepy crawly. Okay, so this is kind of like
It's a viscera sucker.
a worm because it can cut itself in half and then like regrow.
Well,
mixed
see,
with the-
now you're just brought up a deep childhood memory. Remember when I thought in middle school that if you cut worms in half, it would make two worms? So I did that to every worm I saw for like 3 years, maybe.
To make more worms.
Yeah, turns out
You killed all.
that's not how that works. Can't do that.
Okay, well, there are some worms that regenerate,
I'm a normal guy.
but this category of this Aswang
Sure.
can, okay? It also kind of has like a spiny type chupacabra shape to it, mixed with a sentient, bloodthirsty pool drain at the bottom of Chuck Palahniuk's pool because it likes to suck people's intestines out.
Guts.
Yeah,
Short story. Check it out.
it is really...
That's a short story that never leaves you.
It will never, ever...
Kind of a long story.
Can't wait to read that one to the kids.
I don't ever do that.
You don't think I should?
No.
Probably
Don't
not.
do that.
There's a gentleman named Maximo Ramos who has done a lot of research in the Philippines on different folklore. He's written some wonderful books about it that, along with a non-Filipino researcher who has made kind of an extensive set of documentaries about the topic, were my two primary sources for this. Jordan Clark is the documentarian. Maximo Ramos is the researcher author. Okay. His book, The Aswang Complex in Philippine Folklore, he is the one that broke down these 5 categories for me, and then also gave some very interesting translated experiences with each of the different categories. If you have any interest in falling further down this rabbit hole, you should probably look into it.
Book seems like something I need.
You do need
It's
it.
from 1971, and the cover is just beautiful.
Yeah, I really think that it's your jam. In fact, if I had had more time, I would have gotten it here because I read big chunks of it online.
Sure. Well, it's in my cart now. So
Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Now, these creatures are clearly of Philippine origin, but you can also hear some of the distinct influences of European culture, especially with the vampire subgroup. When you hear the vampire subgroup described, they actually sound a whole lot like succubi, Byron. You remember when we talked about them a while back?
that was our horniest episode.
It was my finest moment.
Ugh.
Can't believe my mom never listens to them at all, and she
Listen
picked
to
that one to listen
she sure
to.
did.
Oh, Mom.
She had a lot to say to me about that.
I'm sure she did. It's supposed to be very specifically female, beautiful, and they typically will woo a young man, get married, and then slowly every
married.
night suck blood from them
Okay.
until they eventually wither up and die.
This feels like an analogy.
It does a little bit.
Yeah.
However, in some cases, they actually, for whatever reason, take a liking to their partner and decide that they are instead going to just use their home as a home base of sorts and go far away on expeditions at night to get blood elsewhere and like actually keep their partner intact.
This is twisted.
So if you marry one of the vampire Aswang, it's really luck of the draw whether you're going to end up with one that's going to kill you or one that's just going to be like, oh, you're actually kind of cool. I'm going to go kill other people.
Well, maybe be nice to your wife.
Be really nice to your wife. I like that underlying threat.
I mean,
It's a good one.
sure.
Different from the European tradition, although we talked a little bit about this when we watched Nosferatu, but they can walk out during the day. They don't
no
have to
problem
hide.
with
Yeah,
sunlight.
No issue with sun.
Okay.
Garlic is not so much of their nemesis as salt.
Salt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Salt, lots of dumping salt around the house
Big
to
salt
keep stuff
circles,
out.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Which honestly, it's much easier. It's way cheaper than garlic.
Very cheap.
So
Garlic.
cheap.
I mean,
Have you ever wondered how people make, like, how does Morton's turn a profit? I mean, I know everybody buys salt, but what is the profit
The
margin?
weirdest thing is, like mustard, you don't buy a lot of salt. Like
No,
you buy one of those iodized
It's like $2 and it lasts a year.
or more.
Yeah. Like, how is there profit in that?
It's a conspiracy, obviously.
It's like I remember when I lived in Chicago and I used to drive by one of the Morton salt factories and I used to think about that. Like, what the hell? How can they afford to run a full business?
Sounds like you should have been studying instead of wondering aloud.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's why I didn't finish law school, I
Law
guess.
school, exactly.
These are the vampire types. Then we've got the were-dog types. And this I find interesting because I actually see ways that this has popped up in American culture. It reminds me very much of the giant black, what's the name of the dog in England?
I think it's just the black dog.
No,
You sure?
no. It's like the something dog, or the hound, the death hound, the ghoul hound.
I mean, we had a writer one time.
Black hound?
It's called the black dog.
No.
Gytrash? Gytrash?
No. In England.
Yeah. What do you think I'm looking
Really,
at?
it's just a black dog.
Yes.
There's really not a fancy
just
name.
called the-
Hellhound. Hellhound.
Okay, but
it's the
this is
hellhound.
truly just called the black dog
Okay.
in legend.
Okay, well, this is interesting because mentions of the Aswang date back way into like the 1500s. Obviously, that's when Western civilization came into contact with people that lived on the islands that are now the Philippines, considered the Philippines. The cultural folklore, I'm sure, goes back farther, clearly long before we had this like hellhound black dog thing going on. But these were-dogs are very specifically described in a way that sounds awfully familiar to haunting hounds of the British Moors.
Hound of Baskerville.
Baskerville.
Baskerville. Got it.
Yep. It can be either a man or a woman, so unlike the vampire, that's almost
So
always.
these are not merged concepts. They're individual, all considered a swang in different regions.
It's actually interesting. The documentarian interviewed a bunch of Filipinos, and people have very different ideas about the Aswang and what it is, and sometimes it corresponds with region, other times it just corresponds with what they had been told.
Legend.
It's this common term that generally means lower level mythological terrifying, except they don't consider, many people do not consider them mythological. These terrifying creatures, these were the 5 general categories that they were able to put them into, and the 5 most common descriptions that come up. So I don't know if it's like the 5 races of Aswang, or I don't think that there's anything super specific other than extensive research eventually siloing into these most common 5 different categories.
This one specifically is a dog style beast.
Dog. Were-dog.
Like Hairy Jack or Padfoot or Striker or the Churchyard Beast, the Hateful Thing or Swooning Shadow or...
Did you know that there are were-foxes in China?
I didn't know that, but...
And there are were-tigers in India?
this whole were thing.
I love it. Love myself a shapeshifter.
Wearing me out.
Oh my god, that was a dad joke.
It's been a while since I've done one of those.
It was pretty good though.
Yeah, thank
so there are no wolves in the Philippines, which is why it's were-dogs and not werewolves. Now, the were-dog hangs out in a village, turns into a creature at around midnight.
Okay.
Not necessarily on a full moon, just at around midnight. Interestingly, though they are called, the translated version, it's called were-dogs, who knows what it is, right? In one of the amazing 80 plus languages, but sometimes it turns into a boar, sometimes it turns into a large cat. So it's the were-dog category, but it's almost, I don't want to say skinwalker because I'm conflating 2 cultures that I know very
that's
little about. But
very dangerous.
yeah, but what many Americans would probably find as the easiest reference point would be probably that. One of the things you're going to love about the Aswang, generally speaking, I know the vampires prey on the dudes.
Fun enough, yeah.
Okay. most of the other ones prey on the wee little ones.
On children?
Yeah.
Why would I like that?
Because
You think I have like a distaste for children and I'd rather them not exist?
I think you have a distaste for my aversion to talking about anything bad happening
I
to
just
kids.
think people need to be less sensitive. And honestly, kids know less, so they're worth less. Okay?
So you're telling me value should be assigned based on IQ?
Not IQ. on knowledge acquired over time.
Apparently, the weredogs / werebores / werecats agree with you
Oh, God.
because they love to attack the young ones who cry too much.
I imagine. My girlfriend's heard that before.
Probably.
Uh-huh.
So these creatures supposedly come into the homes, sink fangs into the neck, or even take a giant bite and devour them.
A whole bite.
Also loves to attack pregnant women
Oh, okay.
who neglect to let their hair hang loose.
Did a guy write this?
Yes, Maximo.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Culturally, that seems like a submission thing. That's like long hair out is like the same thing as maybe like high heels or something. Where
Could
it's
be.
like
Yeah, it could be. Asking for it.
not asking for it. Something that would make it more difficult to like do a greater task or something to focus on. I guess you're
I
saying
see.
like a
Yeah.
something that just like
That
'cause
totally
when you
makes
have your
sense.
hair up, you
You can do things.
do whatever. Yeah, you've got it right
Yeah,
there.
always.
So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Apparently, they acquire this bloodthirst by like snacking on what someone else has caught or getting licked by another were thing that has just eaten human blood. And then it's like once you have the taste, it's like weird cannibal movies we
Sure.
watch, right? Like the
Where
hunger.
they lick like the cheek or something.
Yeah, and then you're like done for. So
Is that some sort of marking thing?
I think
I
so.
always figured it was just an intimidation. Or just getting a little taste.
So this is my favorite defense against these creatures that is so obviously not from Western influence. I love it. You make a whip out of a stingray's tail.
Very cool.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Steve Irwin.
And that, yes, indeed. And that terrifies all of the different Aswang, but particularly the weredogs.
Cool.
Okay. So if you are worried, that would be one way to go to protect yourself. Unfortunately, I think that there were a lot of rays that were killed.
I was going to say, that seems like
I don't think that rays are endangered. I mean, I'm sure there are certain subspecies of them that are.
it led to an over-harvesting of stingrays.
Yeah, I could see that. So if you whip a were-dog with the stingray's tail, because normally the were creatures can recover from any wounds when they switch back.
Okay.
If you whip it with a stingray's tail, those scars stay there. And so you can tell who it is.
Identify who the swang is.
Exactly. But all of these things puts a premium on interacting with people you know, and in fact was connected in some of the reading I did to the custom of marrying within familiar families.
Sure.
Because once you go outside of your known circle, I mean, a swang walk around and look like us. Any of these creatures take normal human form most
Yeah.
of the time.
And they can-
you can't tell them.
You don't want to
They
invest
walk among
in
us.
a wife who might.
Could be sucking
Be
your
in a
blood.
swang.
I mean,
Make-
because it's a 50-50 shot. It could be doing that, or it could be like totally fine to you and like
Also,
going and
telling you you
probably don't
can't
want that
stay
either.
out late with the guys.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens.
Oh, God, she must be in a swang.
It's just sucking my blood,
Yep.
bleeding me dry. Mm-hmm. My whole life is awful.
Yeah, I just want to smoke gars with the guys.
Gars. Mm-hmm. You ever smoked a gar?
No,
I'm just curious.
I've never smoked a gar.
Okay. Well,
You ever smoked a gar?
no,
You sure?
sure.
Okay.
Never even smoked a cigarette. True.
Okay.
Isn't that weird?
That's fine. I haven't either.
Oh, yeah, well, good for you. You want to hear about the witches?
Yeah, why not?
These, again, can be men or women, though it is mostly women, but I do like that it could be either. They magically intrude objects. So it could be a shell or a bone, a fish. Specific insects, apparently, are easy for them to get into, and then use that to get into a victim's body. And it's almost always revenge-based. So think Drag Me to Hell.
Okay.
Revenge-based witchcraftery. Once in a while, apparently, there are cases of like, an innocent look on the street and just strike somebody the wrong way. Though, again, looking people in the eye, and please, oh my gosh, I wish Michelle was here because I would just ask her. I read this 3 places. I do not know if it's correct, but in 3 places I saw it isn't necessarily customary to make as much eye contact in the Philippines as it might be in, like, I don't know, LA. Okay. One of the cultural reasons for that, supposedly, is that sustained eye contact can be interpreted as somebody trying to decide if you're a witch or not, and like almost as like an offensive accusing thing, like a gesture. So it's out of deference, but also to try and make sure you're not making eye contact too long with something that could be evil, because that was one of the ways that you could also piss off a witch and then get into a lot of trouble. Yeah, and it's interesting listening to some of the interviews. I mean, clearly, a lot of the people interviewed totally normal, just like you and I, but I guess it is. It's like interviewing a bunch of people coming out of a Catholic church service about whether they believe they just drank the blood of Christ. And like, well, yeah, of course I did. Very similar with these. Like, it's very matter of fact for a lot of humans. And it's very interesting because you can see ways that it apparently has impacted a lot of aspects of their culture. I'd love to hear somebody do a take on similar things that have had an impact on our culture that we probably don't even recognize.
Yeah,
But
like the whole blood of Christ
blood
thing.
of Christ thing is really weird.
The entire city of Boston is pretty weird if that's like
It is.
what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. Also,
Everything's a cult.
everything is a cult,
Sucks.
probably forever.
Uh-huh.
So evil eye witch. That's why
Yes.
specifically the evil eye witch.
the
'Cause
eye contact.
The eye contact is
Great.
a very significant component. Now, a ghoul that eats dead animals, kind of like a zombie, like a brain-eating zombie, think. Sometimes they are a dead human themselves and come back to life. In some of the stories, in other stories, it's much more of they are the vultures of the Aswang.
Okay.
They're just like picking up the stuff that everybody's left behind.
This
kind
isn't
of.
a commentary on the unhoused or something, is it?
You know, excellent question. I mean, the stories emerged long before that was, I think, as prevalent an issue.
Well, poverty's always kind of been an issue.
It
though,
has,
right?
well, and especially with colonialism, but I did not see that anywhere. It'd be
Okay.
interesting to know more about that. Could be. Could be.
These ghouls, though.
Yeah, they,
What parts of the bodies are they starting with?
well, I've seen lots of mention of them like biting cheeks.
Okay.
That seems to be pretty popular.
'Cause I keep thinking about bones and all, and where they started was the belly.
Is that where they started?
I mean, she nibbled on some fingers a couple times, but
I was trying to remember that myself.
yeah, those larger sequences. I guess the first one in the house where they eat that old lady's belly. Oh yeah. That was wild.
I think the ghoul that eats dead animals, that was the one that I found the least amount on.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
It is kind of self-explanatory, but really the one that Byron is going to need to comment on more, because I feel like this has shown up in a bunch of horror movies that I've refused to watch for obvious reasons. The creature that kind of looks like a chupacabra can cut itself in half and regenerate.
You act like I know. Come on.
I know, but no, listen, literally sucks people's intestines out, okay? Its favorite thing to do is to eat 4 to 9 month old fetuses in the mother's womb. And it has this long straw tongue, not made out of straw, but like a tongue that is like a straw.
Oh, this is
That it, like-
the mosquito type thing.
Yes, and that it attaches and like sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so aside from like some really weird allegory for an abortion, maybe, it definitely emerged before there was any medical device like that for abortion. So
It's a viscera eater. I mean,
yeah, so but tell me, aren't there some horror movies about pregnant women where like literally there was like the creature was like sucking something, like sucking the baby out of them?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, you know, all of my violence towards pregnant women and
Well, there were just a number of movies that happened to come out, show up on our radar when I was
mean,
pregnant, and I
yeah.
refused to watch
like
those. And so,
Proxy was a man bashes a pregnant woman's belly with a brick, so it's a little different.
okay, well,
It was not a viscera
wasn't there
sucker.
one with a ghost or a ghoul?
You think I recommend ghost ghoul movies to
I
you?
mean, if they involve babies
That's
dying.
true. You act like I found joy in that.
I know you
It's
didn't.
just trying to watch movies
I
that were
know you
popular,
didn't.
okay?
I know.
You know, the sucking though, I like the viscera sucking. That is the most intense version of the Aswang that I have in my head. That's a gnarly monster.
It is. And actually, if you watch an episode of Grimm,
Really.
there is an episode of Grimm that demonstrates this. It's pretty freaking weird to see.
Okay.
You can look it up on YouTube and watch that little clip of it. Very strange.
I don't know if you're just not talking about this part. I was watching a video about this earlier today, actually. It's not just viscera that this Aswang sucks. It also sucks phlegm. Did you know this?
Oh, no, I didn't know
Yeah, it
this.
eats phlegm. And apparently
And it's not just because it like goes along with the viscera. It's like,
Well, this is where it seems like it might be slightly helpful. It would suck phlegm out of the throats of old people.
okay, so Byron, you haven't had kids, so you don't know about this. But for the parents out there,
I know there's
the
a little
nose
tool.
Frida,
Yeah.
where you literally have to do that.
Yeah.
It was mind-boggling to me that was the best we'd come up with.
Well,
But
I
I
thought there's
used
a
it a lot.
bulb. You use the bulb?
That doesn't work worth shit.
All right, you got to use your own
Yeah,
mouth.
it's totally useless.
Yeah. So, I read something about the phlegm stuff, and then I
mean, I would have hired one if they promised they were just going to do the phlegm part instead of me needing to do the nose Frida.
like
That was
a
gross.
night nurse that just sneaks in and sucks the
Yeah.
phlegm out of your baby.
An Aswang, like specializing in phlegm, not viscera.
That's pretty cool.
Wow, I did not know that. Byron, as I said, Maximo had a number of accounts of people who have run into different types of these Aswang. In the 1950s, though, there was a spate of supposed Aswang attacks.
Wait, what?
Yep. 1950s, so post-World War II, some of the less populated areas around the Philippines, people are showing up dead with those 2 marks on their neck, blood gone. It's weird. It actually sounded a little bit like some of the chupacabra stuff when that started up in the 90s. And that was where I originally heard about the Aswang and then fell back into researching all of this. And I learned that they dated back to, as long as the West has been in contact with these islands. But this really, Byron, I know you kind of get sick of me banging my drum about not loving our government and the things it does.
The way you said that makes it hard for me to agree.
It's not that you don't agree. It's that I know you don't like me occupying a significant degree of airtime because it isn't necessarily horror themed.
That's right.
Well, after World War II,
Wait a second. If an Aswang ends up marrying a human, the partner becomes an Aswang as well?
see, I saw
Contradictory.
I saw varying reports, which you see a lot of. Like,
Of
there is
course.
no by the book when it comes to Aswang.
You can choose to be an Aswang by tying a fertilized chicken egg to your stomach?
Yeah, and it eventually absorbs into your stomach and the eggshell. What happens to the shell?
What the hell?
Yeah, explain that. Keep going.
Once the chick passes into the flesh, you must bury the shell in a bamboo tube with coconut oil and chicken dung?
There we go.
What the hell?
Yep.
All right, sorry.
Very detailed procedures. World War II ends, okay?
I, for one, think it's good it ended.
I mean, I don't know that there are many people that would disagree with that, but I will tell you that the Philippines were helping significantly with anti-Japanese efforts during the war.
A great strategic position for us.
Yeah. And we supposedly freed the Philippines during, I think it was during the Spanish Civil War. It was one of the elements of that. We supposedly kicked the Spanish out.
We do a lot of that.
Yeah, but really, we just swapped the Spanish for us.
Yes.
We're complete assholes, as we are known to be. This would be another thing. I'd love to have a longer conversation with my friend who actually grew up in the Philippines, or with Michelle and what she's heard from her family. But it does not seem like we were doing a ton of favors for the people of the Philippines. And after World War II, one of the things that started happening was a group, pardon me, I'm going to probably butcher it, but the Hukbalahap Rebellion, Huk for short, or Hukbo. They were a group of anti-Japanese army soldiers kind of rising up against the Philippine government. But there became concerns, at least as near as I can understand this, that they were teetering on being communist in nature. Okay. Yeah. And everyone knows that after World War II, America had to stop communism everywhere.
Capitalism versus communism.
The only 2 ways to go. And a gentleman named General Edward Lansdale, who was one of the founding members of the CIA, almost certainly linked to JFK's death. He was actually fired right after the Bay of Pigs because he was instrumental in fucking that shit up.
Was that a big fuck up? Wasn't it like
It was a
they
big fuck
held
up.
back on air support?
Castro assassination shit and
And there's some serious conspiracy, of course.
Right, of course. But most of that stuff is actually pretty normal, verifiable, let's say verifiable. We got so involved. We made sure who the president was. We were writing his campaign speeches.
I will do anything the United States asks.
Right. Just please, just tell me what you need me to do. I'll just do all of it. I don't.
Yeah.
Because apparently at one point he made the mere suggestion, like, hey, maybe I could get one of our local people
folks
to help me write a speech. And Lansdale just beat the shit out of him for even suggesting it. So we're talking like prime toxic masculinity, white male superpower 1950s He also started something called PsyOps, Byron, which we could do a whole year themed around just different PsyOps.
There could be an entire podcast called PsyOps, and I bet there is.
One of my friends sent me actually a PDF of a book that's all about CIA operations, kind of in the category of PsyOps since World War II.
PsyOp is short for psychological operation, of course.
Yeah.
Not an uncommon or hidden tactic.
This guy kind of started, not necessarily 100%, but he was instrumental in that becoming a huge component of our military operations worldwide. He loved doing it in the Philippines. This was one of the places he was probably the ugliest about it. There are a lot of different tactics they used that fell under PsyOps. One of them, because again, at this point, a lot of the people were religious. They were Catholic because most of them had, that was brought over by Europe. They had a helicopter on cloudy days that they would fly over villages, and they would use this huge loudspeaker that was louder than the sound of the helicopter.
Okay.
Utter curses and pretend to be like the mouth of God, essentially. And, if you house any of these rebels, this curse will befall your children.
And
blah,
these
blah, blah,
rebels
blah, blah.
were basically two factions, like the people who were for and against the communism coming into the Philippines. Right,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it's a lot of people that had helped us during the war, which didn't matter worth a damn to us or Lansdale. There are some reports that there were a ton of people that were victimized by these different PsyOps. The grossest one, and the one that I found out about that led me to Aswang to begin with, was that Lansdale, he heard about the Aswang, and he began ordering mimicked Aswang attacks. They would pull villagers from their home, kill them, and make it look like one of the various Aswang-style attacks.
Yeah, I heard that they would pop holes in their necks with screwdrivers to make it look like an Aswang attacked them, and then they'd flip them upside down and drain them of blood before dumping their bodies.
This is in Lansdale's own words.
Yeah?
Okay, so here's a quote from Lansdale. Combat Psy War squad was brought in. It planted stories among town residents of an Aswang living on the hill where the Hucks were based. 2 nights later, after giving the stories time to make their way up the hill to camp, the Psy War squad set up an ambush along the trail used by the Hucks. When a Huck patrol came along the trail, the ambushers silently snatched the last man of the patrol, their move unseen in the dark night. They punctured his neck with 2 holes, vampire fashion, held the body up by the heels, drained it of blood, and put the corpse back on the trail. When the Hucks returned to look for the missing man and found their bloodless comrade, every member of the patrol believed that the Aswang had got him and that one of them would be next if they remained on that hill. When daylight came, the whole Huck squadron moved out of the vicinity.
So I gotta say, either way, freak the fuck out. Even if it's a person.
Right. Either the government's...
Either way, your co-soldier, what is that called?
Comrade?
Sure.
Colleague?
Is deceased violently.
Fellow soldier?
It's not good.
No.
So, but these folks, they were superstitious. Just like with the helicopter curse, a lot of people were removed from hiding and outed by other people because it's very obvious that these people were passionate in their beliefs.
They were. The Aswang attacks were the most vivid and easy to remember of the things that Lansdale and his folks did in the Philippines in the 1950s. However, it wasn't even the worst, nor was it necessarily even the most effective. The things that we were willing to do to people, and I'm sure continue to be doing to people.
Well, we could talk for a long time.
For a long, long, long time. The Aswang worked in moving some of these squadrons from the hills themselves, but then using that with the eye of God, there was a really weird thing where they used condoms that they would plant, but that was
basically
affiliated with another political party.
Yeah, in the name of an opposition party. They made a bunch of advertisement condoms that they were giving out or placing out that had holes punctured in them, so then that
it made that guy look bad.
Yeah, that they wouldn't believe him or trust him because it appeared like he was trying to trick them into.
I'm not sure. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I've read that too.
But why would he want them to have a condom break? Does he want more people?
Yeah, what's the reason
trying to
behind
spread
that?
diseases?
I guess it doesn't really matter. The people who would have it would want that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
I guess maybe that's just based baseline distrust.
The creepiest thing that I read about was, I don't know if you saw this, but the all-seeing eye. So they would go into a village, anywhere where they thought citizens were helping the Hucks, and they would find one of those houses that they thought was, to me, this sounds so much like the Nazis and trying to hunt out houses that were trying to shelter Jewish people.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, they would paint eyes on the walls.
I actually did read about this.
And
yeah.
the buildings around those houses, and then they'd wake up in the morning and there would just be eyes looking at them.
But was that supposed to be supernatural or just like
Unclear. Honestly, I don't think that Lansdale's crew had enough regard for cultural beliefs or norms. They were just doing whatever brute force tactics they could employ to try and
terrorize,
squash communism.
Thank God they did.
Thank God.
Except we got Joe Brandon in the White House. The biggest communist ever.
Oh my God.
There's no America left.
Oh, Sam sent me a link for an island off the coast of Scotland that's for sale.
Tempting, huh?
Yeah. Looked
There's
real
a lot
cold.
of islands in the Philippines, too.
There are 7,000 plus.
Yeah.
Maybe we should look there.
All right.
Bottom line, Byron, the Aswang is a super cool.
It's fake.
Well,
It's not real.
Maybe.
I'm just-
I don't know.
Well,
Skinwalkers, Aswang, I feel like these cultural cryptids have every bit as much validity as the ones that I've grown up with.
Lansdale's the real monster.
He is the real monster,
Yeah.
and we know that he existed, and we know that he was a bad human.
He's dead.
He is dead.
He had a heart ailment.
And he did a lot of damage in his time.
Rest in peace, King.
Nope. None of that.
Okay.
If you want to learn more about the Aswang, Jordan Clark has done a lot of research into both the cultural phenomena of the Aswang and also the CIA involvement in the Philippines. He was born in Canada to Scottish parents.
Okay.
And now he lives somewhere in Asia. But he's very, very interesting. And he's been doing these videos for a really long time. Lots of information. And it's one of those things where there just isn't a lot of research happening to try and gather, especially the oral stories of some of these Aswang reports and generations of information and what has happened in these smaller villages. So it's kind of cool that he's doing it. Yeah. And that's the Aswang, Byron.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm interested to hear if Michelle thinks I'm batshit crazy or if any of this aligns with what her background was.
She might listen to this.
Yeah, that's so funny because my friend told me that both her mother would do this to her. One of her least proud parenting moments, she has a 4-year-old or something, was that she was just at her wit's end trying to get her kid to go to bed a couple of years ago and threw in a Aswang story out there.
Not good.
I was like, oh, I do that shit all the time.
Kelly, thank you so much for that report.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. It was nice to be back in cryptid territory with you.
Yeah, this is nice, enlightening. We're in it again.
I have to tell you that the research I'm doing for my next long form multi,
Yeah.
oh my God, I had to take down and redo my string board the other day.
It's a full string board.
Oh my God,
All right.
yes.
Well, very excited for those things upcoming, and we're not going to not be talking films though either. We got a special
lot of
guest
good
coming up
movies.
on the next one, and then a great film from being put out by Neon. That's a fun
Yeah.
little tease. I don't know if we've talked about it. Maybe on Behind the Screams last week. So,
Oh, I think we did, yeah.
so if you want to check out all the things that we did that are normie style, Normie Roundup's back for the first time in months. So check that out.
Yeah.
Members
I've got
of the
some recs. You should listen to me.
There's a lot. Frightday Society, the FrightdaySociety.org. Check it out. $6 a month. Until next week, Kelly, where are you going to be?
Oh, I am. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about when I asked that. That was my favorite part, I think.
Well, now I got to beep her name.
Sorry. I figured you were going to beep the whole thing. That's why I wasn't
Okay,
worried.
all right.
That was, oh God, that was adorable. She's just, yeah. Until next week, I'm going to be on Discord periodically doing a whole lot of research with my string board, and you can always send me an email, kelly@frightday.com.
I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. And until next Frightday, I'm Byron.
I'm Captain Kelly.
Don't buy stock in salt.
I'm going to get to the bottom of that one.
And stay scared. Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.